Okay, welcome to Purposeful Life. Those of you who are still getting food and eating, go right ahead. The rest of you, have a seat, keep eating, and I'm going to get started because there's a lot to cover in this time period. My name is Lucinda Thelen, and I'm going to be the one speaking tonight. And I'll tell more about myself and my background as we get going. I do want to point out up here a thank you to all the people and the groups that are part of the organizing committee, because it takes a lot of people to put all of this together, from the school districts, Center on Disability and Development, facets, the whole thing. So it takes a group. Also, thank you very much to P-Sun, because they're the ones who help so much with the child care. The PAS program at A&M is helping with the child care, and then Central that lets us have the meetings here. All right, restroom down the hallway. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We really need you to do the surveys, because I know you've been handed a survey. The importance of that is we go through that in our meetings afterwards. And I know one of the questions is about future topics, different things. We learn and change and grow. What is this, our 10th year?
Yeah.
10 now? We're at year 10. And we have changed and grown so much from that very beginning, but it's feedback from y'all that guides us and directs us. If you have questions, there's an email you can send them to. Hopefully there's some time for questions, but we'll just see how all of that works. Know that sensory movies are set up, and the list is there. The next one is March 1st, Dog Man, and it tells the information. Do I need to say any more about that? Okay, that's on there. Next session will be about self-advocacy, and that will be the 6th of March. For those of you who want to use the QR code, you can do that for the survey, or you can fill it out by hand. So either one of them works. I left this on because last Saturday we were here and we had a disability conference. We had breakout sessions. We had a keynote speaker. Was anyone here from that? Here. Perfect. Okay, because that's another one we're going to want feedback from if you haven't heard yet. Just because of what we're trying to do with that. That's a once-a-year deal. So on the website, all of the information, they're putting the videos together from the keynote, from the breakout sessions, and there's a guide on there that has all the local resources. So that's why I left it on there, even though we had already done it. All right, so let's get to what this is all about. Preparing yourself and your child. My background real quick. Yes, I'm a mom. I have an adult son that is autistic. But I was also a teacher. And my major was a double major, and health was the second teaching field. So I've had lots of health, sex education, all of those different things, taught how to teach that, and I have taught it before. I thought I was right there in it until I had to have it, experience it myself with my son. But then also I switched from general ed teaching, gosh, I'm going to give away my age, sorry, and 92, and went to special ed. And since then, I have helped and seen, and it's so different. And it's so important to prepare your child. I don't know what else. You got to prepare yourself as well, but you have to prepare for the changes that are going to take place. Okay. So just know we're covering an overview, but I'm going to give resources for specific things. And because everyone in here is going to have a different journey. Every family is a little different. What we feel is a little different. Each child, what they experience, and as they grow up, it's things that are going to be different. I don't really get embarrassed. I've done too many things with all of this. So if questions come up or whatever, I really, that's fine. Just know that I just talk very directly. biological terms about maturing child and intimate situations. So all of that will be covered, but I put at the bottom rated R for responsibility because it is our responsibility to help guide them. And you'll see why as we go through. Okay, it's not just the birds and bees. And so if you were here thinking, I'm going to sit here and talk to you and teach you just how to teach your child or help them understand sex, we will cover that briefly, but it's so much more. It's about their independence and finding themselves. It's about their body image. Plus, it's behaviorally and emotionally makes a big difference. How many of y'all think back when you went through, when you were a little kid and then you went through puberty? Do y'all remember much of that at all? I got a few shaking heads and stuff, yeah. It's not just your body changes. The way your brain works changes. Everything changes as you go. All right. So adolescence is the period following the onset of puberty. That's when they go from being a child to an adult. Okay? That is adolescence. Puberty is when they reach their sexual maturity. All right? And then they become capable of reproduction. So, two different things. A lot of times we say them all the same because they kind of go parallel with each other, but they are two different definitions. Does that make sense? Okay. All children will go through puberty. It does not matter about their social skills. It does not matter about their IQ. It does not matter about physical ability. Okay? They will go through it. What I have found in all of my years of teaching is that, but if they're only, like reading like a second grader or something, I can't quite think about them having their period or wanting to have sex or touching themselves. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter what level they're reading that. They're going to want to do it. Their bodies will go through it. And so what it does is what their needs are is what helps guide you on how to support them and teach them. Okay? Because like I said, I cannot tell you how many parents over the years, oh, no. Oh, yes. We need to talk about this. They're touching themselves in class. They're trying to touch other people. They're doing all these other different things. We need to start talking about this before it gets them into trouble. All right, so teaching tips is that however you work with things with your child, it's going to continue and do the same. It's like, do you just talk to them? Do you have to show them pictures? Do you have to go, in fact, it says all of this up here. Do they need to see a video? Do they need to have background and look? How do they learn? How does your child learn? Okay, and then you use that, it's just this will be the topic that they're doing. Okay, and I want to point out so I don't forget, I have a lot of resources that I've gathered over the years. There's some that I can give out, which I'll put out, and I have a lot of resources at the end. And I have some copies, and I have some books and stuff, so you can see, because every child or every family is different, how you want to go about doing this. So the idea behind this is to understand what needs to be done and know what resources are there to help you within your specific circumstances, if that makes sense. All right, so here's some areas that you need to address. Their bodies, what the parts are called and what they're used for. And this is what you need to do. You need to use the real words, okay? It's a penis, all right? But you can also use a slang word that they might hear, all right? Like if there's some place and somebody says, you want to see my dick, okay? You need to explain that to them, that that's the same thing, but this is the full Thelen was an RN. My sex education came from a book. Here, read the book. So I went to school and they did the class, and I'm sitting here and they're saying all these words that I didn't understand because they were more like the slang. I only knew the legit medical terms, okay? They really need to know both. A doctor would ask them if there's something that hurts there. What about your breast? They need to know where their breast is, those type of things, okay? So they need not just boobies, okay? They need to know both words, and what they're used for, okay? All of our body parts except what? The appendix? Is that the only one that we don't have a set use for? Everything else is used, okay? So tell them what it is used for. All right, this one I cannot get enough, hygiene. And a lot of people don't think about that when they equate with adolescence and puberty, but man, the body changes. And when the body changes, there's a lot of smells. And if they don't have hygiene rituals and things that are set that you need to do, it's not going to be pleasant. The people at school or in community or whatever are not going to want to be around them if they're real stinky. Okay? So a bath, you need to take care of all your body parts and so on. We'll talk a little bit more. Sexual awareness. They need to know what it is. What is acceptable behavior and when is it acceptable? And we're going to talk about some different things with that, some more specifics. And boundaries. This is the most important thing from the time that they're little that you need to work on. You've got to get them working on boundaries. And we'll talk about what that means and what it looks like in their day-to-day life and so on. Just to throw out there, my son, he knows every story I tell. I have permission. He knows I was going to tell this one, boundaries, which I'll talk about later. He had been taught socially with his autism that if someone's talking to you, then you have the communication going back and forth. I mean, we worked on this. We worked on this. He was volunteering with me at a nature sanctuary, and there was a young lady who thought he was cute. And started talking to him, but kind of knew immediately that, wait a minute, what's going on here? So she's still talking to him, but she keeps walking, and then she goes into the bathroom. So he stood outside the door, but he kept talking to her the whole time. Because what had we taught him?
Back and forth.
Back and forth, this and that. If she's talking to you, she hasn't said goodbye yet or given a pretty significant thing. Oh my gosh, did we have some angry parents? How dare he follow her to the bathroom? How dare he keep following her and doing all of this? He had no idea. None whatsoever. But she felt her boundaries were crossed and she felt that it was very inappropriate. So we had to go back and start going, how do we teach this? What are the boundaries? So guess what? If someone's in the bathroom, you're not talking to them. Unless it's mom yelling for toilet paper, okay? So, I mean, we set things, so we'll talk, but those boundaries have to be concrete and done. Nothing, quote, came of it, we just had to keep them very separate. All right, they are gonna have physical changes. How many of your kids, family members don't like change? How many of us don't like change?
It's hard. Change.
Okay, so guess what? They're being thrown into the part of their life when more changes happen than you can imagine. I mean, think about it. And so, if they know what's coming, if they know what changes are going to be coming, it will help relieve the anxiety. And we'll talk more about how to do that. But I do have one other just real quick story. So my son, this is another one I get to share. We went over this from the time he was little. He knew what was going to happen. He knew the changes that were happening, that would happen. We knew all of this. I mean, kids at school were changing before him. He was a little slow with his development and so on. And so I will never forget, his dad and I are sitting out, we had the TV on and we're talking, and he comes running out to the living room and he goes, "Ha ha! Puberty has begun."
Oh my God.
Yeah, and I go, okay, what are boundaries? What are the boundaries that I know? I'm very happy that you understand what is happening, and that is awesome. Do you want to go over and talk about it with your dad? Do you want to talk about it with me? It's probably not a good idea to just announce it with everything. Okay, I didn't think of that. So it's a learning thing with those boundaries and stuff. But he was prepared and he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid, which for some, all of a sudden things start happening and they're like, what is this? I don't know. Okay. So it really does ease the process. Now, does that mean you need to go home and sit down with your 5-year-old and explain everything? No. And we'll look at ways that you can ease in with the conversations or different things that are happening. Okay, so what does it mean? When do y'all think that girls start reaching puberty? Adolescence.
9, 10.
Between 7 and 14.
Gosh.
That's what studies show. Between 7 and 14. For boys,
11, 12.
physically around 13. Sometimes it's like 12. Some, it's not until they're older, 17 or 18. I mean, there's a wide gap with that. And usually they're about 2 years behind where females are in their grade, if that makes sense, or their age. They're going to be a little bit slower. And again, this is the average. Okay, you're going to have some that go much sooner, others that are, later. It's just going to depend. But it will happen. All right, so let's start with the girls. They're going to start having their growth spurts. And what they're going to start getting is breasts. Okay? They may be uncomfortable. So you're going to have to tell them, if they have the hard lump, that's not something to be afraid of, this and that. It's something that's going to be natural. They're going to start having hair grow places that they had not had hair grow before. And they may have a vaginal discharge. All right? If you were not told, and I have to be, this is another story. I was teaching general ed, and I was coaching. And one of my players started screaming. She was 7th grader. Screaming. I'm dying. I'm dying. What is this? She had started her period. She had no idea. She just thought blood was coming out of her body and this was it. And I'm going, no, has your parents, has your mom talked to you? What do you mean, talk to me? I'm dying. So what do I do as a teacher? I make sure she knows she's not dying, okay? And we will handle this, and there's different ways to handle it. Very calming, this and that. Got a hold of her parents to let them know, and so on. But, I mean, can you imagine not having a clue and having something like that happens? Or you roll over in your sleep and you have a lump and it hurts? They need to know ahead of time. Periods will change, usually 12 to 13, but quite honestly, it can be as early as 9 that they start. It can be early. And so they need to know what's happening, and then get used to what you do for it. Is there a pad? Is there a tampon? Is it the underwear you wear now? I mean, there's all kinds of different things, because if it's somebody, let's just say you have your child has sensory issues, and all of a sudden, not only is this happening, now you're adding something to their body. Okay, you really set it up. And so it can be like you can have them wearing bras way ahead of time. Not way, like little, but when you're going to need it, so that they can get used to the feel. If it's going to be a pad or something, they can get used to it. So, wearing the bra, part of it so they can touch the material and know. I mean, most of the women in here, you know, we've been wearing them so long, we don't think about how they feel and how you put them on. You just automatically do it. But you have to learn, and they have to have the material that they can handle, smooth or more cottony or whatever it is that they need. Shaving, if you want them to shave, you need to have them practice. Okay, shaving their legs, whatever it is, if you want shaving their armpits, how do you do it? Let them practice. Electric razor, or you can use the other one without the razor blade at first, if you don't slice themselves, but show what to do and how often, or this or that, and what to put on and everything. And then show that you went through this too. Show them a picture when you were little, and then as you are now. We all go through it. It's natural. Isn't it cool? You're becoming a woman. Okay? See it as a positive. And again, like I said before, practice, practice, practice before it starts. If they're going to have to see a gynecologist, that one, you've got to let them know ahead of time. I would strongly suggest pictures, ways to relax before talking to the doctor, all of that kind of stuff, because it's very overwhelming. Okay, so that one is like a step above that. I'm sorry, you don't have to have a disability to get some reassurance before that first time. Okay, for boys, they're going to have growth spurts. Their hands and feet are going to get bigger first. Muscle mass is going to go. Their voice is going to change. Okay? Did that feel weird, some of the gentlemen in here, with your voices changing? Do y'all remember that at all with it breaking or anything? I don't know, it was a while ago. But if you got somebody with sound sensory stuff and then all of a sudden things are different, it can make a difference. They will start getting the same thing with underarm hair, more hair in the pubic area, and their penises and testicles will also start developing. They're going to look different. They're going to feel different. They're going to have to clean themselves more thoroughly on some of it. And so you need to make sure that they know that's what's going to happen. And then at puberty, they can start having ejaculation. Okay, and that can be just as, whoa, what is this, the same way as a period. So they need to know that that's something that can happen, and probably will happen. Okay. So use reassurance. It's cool to keep up with the growth. One thing to check is their shoe size, because if they don't complain, that's one thing that I found, that they don't say, and they'll be wearing shoes that are too small because their feet grow so very quickly.
Do we have Phillips, Mom?
Phillips, Mom. Okay. All right. And then reassure about the body hair growth, that that's normal. That's normal. I did have a student that we were working with, I was working with parents, and it was the whole thing about the body hair growth, and he knew he was going to get to shave sometime, so he wanted to practice. So he didn't have a razor like to shave his face. There wasn't a whole lot. So where do you think he had hair that he wanted to practice? Oh yeah. So the mom came in, came in and was like, oh my gosh. He came out and was like being kind of weird, and we're like, what's going on? So they looked at the shower, and there was like hair all in the shower. But he shaved and didn't cut himself. So I'm like, that's a positive. How about let's teach him what things to do? It's normal. All right, nocturnal emissions, letting them know that that's a real thing that will happen. Okay, they can be having a dream and then ejaculate. And so that's something they can do. That doesn't mean that they're dying, or it's something that's, what is it that's coming out of their body. And then erections. They're going to happen. Reassurance that they're going to happen, but strategies of what to do if they're in public. Okay, that's one of the boundaries. People don't want to see you with everything sticking out and poking out. So are you going to stand behind something? What other things can you do? And prepare them ahead of time. So it's something that they have a strategy that you can remind them of. Okay, grooming. Again, personal hygiene. I cannot tell you, having taught so many kids through this time period, it is very different. Texture-wise, I know my own son hated using deodorant. I can't tell you how many different types and types that we tried before he could find a deodorant that worked for him. Just keep trying. Just keep trying. Bathing, which I'll show, there's things over here. We put a list to make sure that he washed everything that he was supposed to wash. Because he wanted to get back to his computer game or playing or this or that. So he goes in the shower, turns it on, and then leaves. Oh, no, 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 no. Soap isn't even wet. You haven't done this. Let's go back and do it. Shampoo, hair, all of that kind of stuff. You want him as independent as possible. It's so easy to just go in and go, let me help you do your hair real quick. But is that going to work when he's 20? Or she's 20? 25? You know, you want them to do as many things on their own as they can. Because you want them as independent. Even if they're going to need help in the future, the more independent they are, and this is really, I don't know how to, the better they will be treated if they're somewhere. The better they'll be treated, the more that they can do on their own. All right, so there's checklists, there's shaving, deodorant, use incentives. Yes, he earned points. Points got him more time on the game. Toothpaste. Toothpaste. That is a hard, has anybody else seen that with toothpaste?
Yes.
Yeah. That one, I mean, we start with little bitty. You can find it that's not mint. It was the mint that was too much. There's different ones, and I'm blanking because there's another one you can get online that's just this little, I'll look it up before I leave, but I know that it's just a couple drops and it does the same kind of thing. But you gotta experiment because that can be very difficult. Okay, now let's get to the fun part. The birds and the bees. Okay, sexuality is gonna be a part of them. Doesn't matter what their disability is. Okay? They are going to have sexual feelings. Is that scary? It can be. Okay. This one right here, it comes down to you, your family, and all of that on what your comfort level is. Okay? Of what to do. You've got to find the best way or the clearest way, and most of us weren't taught. I don't know, maybe y'all had somebody that did things real clear for you growing up and so on. Like I said, I was handed a book. Okay, I had to learn. And that was hard in a college level class on sex education. Oh, really? What about this? All right, and so what you have to do is talk about what sexuality, and talk about it with your spouse, another adult, you know, that they're going up there. Like how open, who's more comfortable, you know, what are your, which will get you, what are your family values? I mean, all of that kind of different things. And so that's going to vary family by family, person by person. Okay, the small print, yes ma'am.
And one of the things that I had to learn the hard way was I didn't tell him not to share this new knowledge with other kids. And so that got us in trouble.
Okay, that's a good thing. That's when we get to boundaries. Yeah, what is happening with you is private. The things that you know are private. That doesn't mean you go to school the next day and go, oh, did you know girls have blood that, you know, yeah, because they'll do it. They will do it. All right, most adults are not comfortable with this. I mean, obviously, I'm a little different, sorry. But most adults are not. I mean, my husband, his dad was like, you get to tell him, yeah, I just, and I'm like, I don't care. We're just gonna say what's going on. And I know how hard it is, but remember, you're the main educators. Whether you're comfortable or not, who else do you want them to get information from? Imagine if they only got told by a friend. What is that friend gonna say? All right, what about a classmate? What about the internet? I'm sorry. The videos that are out there, the different things that are there, is that who you want explaining about relationships and different things to your child? And so no matter how hard or horrendous it is and so on, you've got to be the ones that step up. Because of this, the extra small print that most people don't want to look at and realize. The group of Americans that are most at risk for sexual harassment and sexual assault, people with intellectual disabilities. They are a prime target. They are a target. I've got sad stories of some of my students and things that have happened to them and what it did in horrendousness. Yeah, one 8th grader who was pregnant and did not know what that meant. She was given, they were poor, she was given snacks from the store that she got to choose to go have sex in the car with men. Yeah, it's there, it happens. Until my class, she didn't know what that meant. She was pregnant in 8th grade. It's a huge amount. We're here, we care with all of this. Her mother cared too, she just didn't know what to do. She did not know what to do. Okay, so how much more at risk? 2 times more likely to be sexually abused. Sexual violence, 4.6 times more with the risk of that. Sexually assaulted, a rate at 7 times higher than those without disabilities. It's huge. So guess what? You don't get to be comfortable. You've got to help them protect themselves. And if they don't know what's going on and so on, then this raises the chance of something happening to them. Okay? And like I said, look at the last one. The individual may have communication limits and not understand what has happened. And that was this young lady. She had no idea. None. All right, so you need to step out of your comfort zone. It can, the more knowledge they have, the less chance they will be victimized. Yes, ma'am?
If you have a boy with intellectual disability, is the boy still have a risk? Yes. Sexual? Really?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't want to.
Yes. Okay, because I can tell you about a male student I had who was in a family and culture that was very patriarchal. The father was the da-da-da-da-da. So he listened, and if a man told him to do something, he had to do it. He had to give oral sex to a man because he told him he had to do it. He got raped, brutalized, anal sex because a man told him to do it. He didn't know. He didn't know. So yeah, it's not just female, unfortunately. Or it's across the board. Because they don't understand. So it's our job to do that. Okay, so this one is just a little thing. Don't run from hard or uncomfortable situations. Take a deep breath and go into them. And so do the work necessary. Prepare ahead of time, which I'm going to be giving you resources and different things with all of that. And that will help you. I mean, it really will. And I know I'm standing up here saying all kinds of stuff, but it was different with my son. It was different with my son. It was a whole different thing if I was at a school doing an IEP, a goal that was, we had to teach what HIV was, and into AIDS because I had a young man that they were going to do an arranged marriage with, and so, but he had read that if you have sex, it will make you have AIDS. So we actually put in a goal and learned all about what HIV was, all of those different things with that. So, okay, so it's there, and the parents were relieved because he finally understood, but it took more than just them telling him. Okay, so things to address. What are your family values? All right, no sex before marriage. Is that what family value? How you feel about masturbation, those different things. What is it that your families believe or think? And so that's what charts what you're teaching them. Relationships. Show what relationships are. You don't just meet someone and go off with them, okay? Talk and share and point out, because what is TV show? You meet somebody and you run off with them, right? Get a hotel room or go to somebody's apartment, you kiss them right away. All of that doesn't have to be. And so use natural life things, things that you see, or while you're watching TV. Oh, that's not accurate. That's not what you do. They need to know each other. They need to do this. And then that way you're showing and living and showing what a healthy relationship is so that they know what that is. Media, I'm telling you what. And it's getting worse. I don't know what else to say. You try to protect, you try to do, but it doesn't show an accurate account of what relationships are and what sex is. Okay, so they need to know that that's not what they see on TV or what they see on the internet or whatever else does not make it true. Show them what is true, no, or this is so on. And then you're going to have to address self-gratification and know that trying to make it so that they don't do it may be impossible. Okay? If they're going to want that gratification and they've had that feeling and they're going to want to do it, you can try so on, but recognize that trying to eliminate that and saying no, 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 that would be like if you were grown up and whatever and you were told the same thing. No, you cannot touch yourself, you cannot do this, you cannot get satisfaction in any way. Okay, so what am I supposed to do? Because those needs are going to be there. So instead, help them know when or if it's appropriate that they need to be on their own, go in the room. You don't tell somebody what you're doing, it needs to be private. The boundaries, private. That was what we used in my classroom with my son, private and public. That's public behavior, this is private behavior. And private means private. Okay, and then again, you're gonna have to think about birth control, pregnancy, respect both ways. Just because you like somebody doesn't mean they're gonna like you back. Just because you may want to touch and kiss them doesn't mean they're going to want to do that back. There's so many different things with that. And so, it's things you have to think about. It's things to think about. So that's what brings us to the boundaries. Concrete rules. You need concrete rules. All right? Yes, you may have to help them with their bathing and stuff, but you want them to get independent so they can be private doing it. Do they just walk in on you in the bathroom? You gotta watch, because you've gotta set the thing. I remember when my son was little bitty, and this one I don't think he remembers it still. Anyway, no, that might be too much information. He did not understand. And I started setting the boundaries, privacy, I want privacy. But he thought that, and I want clean underwear and whatever was privacy. He brought me some underwear. I'm like, no. Privacy means I need to be by myself, okay? You have to stay over here. I'm not gonna let you in the bathroom, all right? Private. And so you need to set them and make it concrete. Because at our homes, think about it, how open are y'all in your homes? We had to make the rule that to come in our bedroom, he had to knock on the door. He couldn't just walk in. And then as he got older, we would do the same thing with him, trying to teach him those boundaries with that and set it up. And so you need to make sure that they know that they cannot touch their private areas, which is areas covered by their underwear, basically, in public. So what is public? And that may, oh, I'm in public. You may have to use those words to explain things. School is public. Okay? If you're gonna explore your body, self-gratification, it needs to be done in private. That means nobody is with you. You're on your own, in your bed, or in the bathroom. Clarify for them who to ask questions about when they have questions about their body. That it's okay to ask questions. But that doesn't mean you go to the lunchroom and ask somebody a question. Or walk up to your teacher or whoever else. Just let them know who they need to do. And then again, closing the door when you go to the restroom. Okay? Because, I don't know, do y'all have like open homes where you don't always close the doors and all that stuff? Or do you keep them closed? Yeah, it's just something to think about, and every family is so different. For personal safety, you need to teach them who can see them when they're undressed. Okay? Who can see them? The doctor. You, if you're having to check something out. And who else? Okay? One of the big things, and I know that I've dealt with this in the last few years with some different students and stuff that got conned into taking pictures of themselves naked and sending them to someone else. No. But they didn't know. These people said they were their friends, and that's what friends are supposed to do. So we've got to teach them. No, your body is yours. If you don't want to go up and give Aunt Karen a big giant hug, and give her the kiss, if you're not comfortable with that, it's okay to say, can I shake your hand? It's okay. Because they, again, and that's what's really sad, I did not put those statistics on there, but most of the abuse does not come from people that they don't know. It's going to be people that they do know. And that's why this has to be so concrete. And teach them to tell if they're touched by somebody else that they don't understand. Okay, I mean, my son can't tell the difference if you give him a pat on the back, if you're being nice or if you're being mean, He can't tell the difference. But he knows that he can share that. I don't know if they were being nice or if they were hitting me. Okay, I don't know what was being said, what was going on. And you use all of those different things and let them know who the safe people are to talk to. They have to have a safe place that they can come to and share all of this. Boundaries with others is just as important. That's one of the things that they're working on in the youth room in there, which I'll get to that. But a good thing to say is an arm length away, that you're not too close, because people can misinterpret that and see that as you're harassing them if you're too close to them, or touching them, or you want to touch their hair, or all those different things. And you've got to say, no, everybody gets that personal space. Everybody. And then again, teaching what is private. Getting dressed, using the restroom. I mean, for guys, sorry, y'all need to even teach, which we used to do, if you go into a public restroom, all right, and one guy's at a urinal here, you go right next to him. No, you give space. Okay? You don't stand right next to him, you move over and let them use that. That has to be taught. Something that y'all would pick up naturally, our kids would have to be taught that. So it's just thinking through what you do, what's the privacy. And then relationships are between two people, not just about how they feel. How many of y'all had a crush on somebody before? Really like them? Oh, yeah. All right. And then what if they didn't like you back? Uh-oh. Yeah. And so learning that, this again, another student of mine, he wanted to share a Valentine's gift. So his parents asked. This was a girl that he's actually spoken to on the phone, and they wanted me to be by there in the hallway when he walked up and gave her this candy and this little stuffed bear. Okay? I said, okay, number one, I'm not a dating service, so I'm not quite sure with this. But I don't mind. I will stand there and just see. Well, he walked up, got so close, handed her the stuff. She was like going, and just left. He never picked up on any of that. She took it. That means she likes me. And boy, we had to work on so much stuff because then he started following her and everything else because he did not understand. Okay? Luckily, I witnessed, so I could tell the parents, tell them what the response was, tell them all of this kind of stuff, and we worked as a cohesive group so that he would understand that it's got to be both. And if she liked you, she would have looked at you and talked to you and said thank you and done all those things, but she did not. Okay, so that means that she doesn't feel the same way. It doesn't mean that she doesn't like you as a friend, but she doesn't feel the same romantic way that you do. Okay? And most of all, teaching it's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. Okay? Now that's not about doing the dishes. They can't tell you no for doing the dishes. But if somebody's wanting to touch them or do different things, it's okay to say no. Give them those ways of stepping around. And so there's just different boundaries. I know in the youth group we've gone over this before. You know, you don't just walk up with somebody you don't know and give them a big hug. Okay? Instead, people you just met, hello, shake hands, friendly, you know, different things. I know that was one of the big things that we worked on so much, that if you wanted to hug somebody, give them a side hug. Okay? And we did that a lot. Also worked on that at high school level. 5 is against the law is what they're looking at in the youth room. But basically it's saying, you know, normal behavior, hey, what's going on? And the reason for the five things is real easy to, if you use those, you can be teaching your child without coming out and saying what you're doing is against the law. You know, instead you're saying, ooh, that's a 5, that's a 5, that's a 5. Okay? And that's when you're you know, it can get you suspended, arrested, this and that. Scary behavior is, you know, getting too close, swearing, this and that. And so we use this all the time so that I could just say, I could even signal. Okay? I know I have on one slide about you can use a code word. When my son was doing something really not okay, and I would start to see it, I would say, oh, I forgot to tell you, Mr. Thompson's coming to visit tonight. Thompson is his middle name. Mr. Thompson means I'm going to use his full name, meaning he's doing something not right. And he would go, oh, and he knew to stop what he was doing. But the people around didn't know because that was our code. All right? So you're not embarrassing them. You're not saying you did this and that. It was a way to do that to make them stop and redirect. All right, so we've got adolescence. And I want you to think about these things. Think of your parents and your upbringing. How many of you did exactly everything that your parents told you to do? I want to meet this human that did that. Okay. How about, did you believe and do all the things exactly as your parents? Have you never disappointed your parents or made mistakes? Dated the only person that your parents picked out for you? Are you living the life your parents wanted you to lead, or would have said, this is what you have to do? Those are a lot of questions to think about. I know I didn't do what my parents said to do. I had to be me. I had to be me. And not hand a book and say, here's your sex ed, here's the book. All right, so what do you want for your child when they're an adult? And most importantly, what does your child want? Relationships. What would you do if you were alone and you didn't have a relationship at all? That's hard. And we don't want, it's hard. I don't know what else to say. And that's why they're gonna want friends. They're gonna want a relationship. Most of them are gonna want a relationship, and so on. And so it's our way to guide and make the road smoother. That doesn't mean there's not gonna be mistakes. Okay, but we've all made them, and look where we are now. So it's recognizing that they are gonna be their own person. I thought this was kind of funny. My teacher says little girls can grow up to be anything they choose. Why did you choose to be an old lady? I was like, okay. So I'm not sure why I chose this. But anyway, and so, just thinking with that. And so just know the hardest thing is letting them go when it's time. On their time, but remember, that timeline can change. I look at my son and some of the other students that I've worked with and different things that I've kept in touch with. Sometimes it was a lot later. Like they weren't ready for this. They were still learning and not feeling real comfortable, and they had to learn. So it wasn't until they were much older. But it gave them that experience going to it, and it wasn't putting a stop sign saying, no, not doing this. So sometimes and it's hard to allow them to have their own life. But by teaching them, you are helping them hopefully have a purposeful and safe life, which is huge. Now, the resources that I have here, and I'm going to be off the camera for Facebook, but all of these are on, they'll be on the website. Okay. But I want y'all to feel free to come up over here. All of these different things have what you might be looking for. Like, are you just wanting to talk about puberty? Or are we starting to talk about sexuality? I mean, there's so many different things. And the resources that are there, these are books that I've got. Taking Care of Myself is one, and it has lists and things of what you should do. Here's one about Down syndrome and teaching about their bodies and sexuality. Here's Boyfriends and Girlfriends, Boys and Girls Guides to Growing Up. These are all ones you can get on the internet. I mean, we've got pictures and all kinds of stuff. I brought them so that you can see. I mean, if it's something that take a picture of the cover or whatever. My Body, What I Say Goes. All of these different things up here. Oh my gosh. Here's a parent package, 0 to 7 years old, talking to your child about sexuality. All of those are here for free on the internet. And so I printed them all out, but you can see this giant stack. It would have been really hard to try to print out and give everybody a giant stack of everything, because I don't know what everybody needs, what it is that you're needing to work on now or this or that. But what I want you to do is feel free to come up and start looking through these things, seeing if it's something And then there it is. And feel free to email if you're not finding something, and I'll help you find it, okay? Because the email is on there and it'll get to me. So, all of this is set up. These books, Healthy Body Appendix, there's a few extra copies in Spanish and in English. Those are up for grabs if anybody wants to do them. And those have picture-supported information. So those are all up here in the front. Now, what we usually do at this time is divide into groups and have you talk and get some questions answered, which, how many dice do we need? Because I don't know how you normally
The mic over here is fine.
do what.
The mic is fine. I'll just talk really loud. Okay.
You're here, if you want the mic,
No,
I'll
it's
take
okay.
it off.
No, it's okay. I just was concerned because she put it out for us. Who has the mic? That's the question. I'm just kidding. Okay, so we're gonna get in groups. If you haven't been here with us before, like 6 to 8, and we're gonna have 6 questions. We're gonna have 6 questions on the slide. You're just gonna roll the dice and answer the question that goes with the number. It's just a way for you guys to get to know each other and share about your own kids, about your fears and your hopes for the future. It's really been awesome. So if you are sitting in the front table, if you will turn your chair around and push it up to the table behind you, and you might need to split into 2 groups, and we'll bring you a dice, and we'll let you know when we need to stop and get kids. So if you'll just turn your chairs around and push into the next table.
And it takes a community. This is your chance to get to meet other people. Okay.
Hello. Doing all right?
All right, so here's the directions. Answer question next to the number. You get a mulligan if you like, this is not the question I want, you do get to roll again.
Parent
So,
and educator.
Here